In early 2025, Donald Trump reignited global controversy by aggressively reviving his proposal for the US to acquire Greenland from Denmark. Unlike his first attempt in 2019, which was widely dismissed as a publicity stunt, this time Trump's approach was more calculated and forceful, immediately capturing the world's attention and sparking heated debate in diplomatic circles. This time, the pitch was framed as a matter of national security, citing Greenland's strategic Arctic location and its untapped rare earth minerals. Trump's advisors argued that control over Greenland would give the US a critical advantage in the rapidly changing Arctic, where melting ice is opening new shipping routes and intensifying competition for resources. The administration also pointed to China's growing interest in the region, warning that America could not afford to fall behind. The proposal was no longer a real estate joke, it was a serious geopolitical move. High-level meetings were held between US and Danish officials, with Trump's team pressing their case and offering economic incentives. Maps of Greenland were circulated in Washington highlighting its vast mineral wealth and military potential. International reaction was swift and incredulous, with European diplomats and commentators decrying the idea as outdated and even threatening. The European Union issued statements condemning any attempt to undermine Danish sovereignty, while newsrooms across the continent buzzed with speculation about America's true intentions in the Arctic. Reports surfaced that Trump had even considered taking Greenland by force, escalating tensions and alarming both allies and Greenlanders. Military analysts warned that any such move could destabilize the region, drawing in NATO and potentially igniting a new Cold War in the Arctic. Greenlandic citizens watched the news with growing anxiety, fearing for their future. For Greenland, initial curiosity quickly turned to outrage. The idea of their homeland being bought or annexed was deeply offensive. Protests erupted in Nuuk and other towns, with Greenlanders waving their national flag and demanding respect for their autonomy. Social media campaigns spread rapidly, uniting people across the island in opposition. A January poll showed 85% of Greenlanders opposed any union with the US, underscoring their commitment to self-determination. The poll results were widely shared, becoming a rallying point for those determined to protect Greenland's unique culture and identity. The Greenlandic government issued a firm rejection, declaring Greenland's future would be decided by its own people. In a televised address, leaders emphasized that Greenland was not for sale, and that any decisions about its future would be made democratically, by Greenlanders themselves. They called for partnerships based on respect and equality, not ownership. Greenland's leaders reached out to the international community, seeking allies who would support their right to self-determination and help them build a sustainable future. Greenland's decisive stance signaled a new era, one in which they would chart their own course, seeking alliances that honored their sovereignty and aspirations. The world was watching, as Greenland stood firm, determined to shape its destiny on its own terms. Rather than retreating in the face of mounting international pressure, Greenland's leaders made a bold decision. They pivoted north, turning their attention to Canada, a neighbor with shared Arctic interests and a history of collaboration. This move was not just about finding a new ally, but about redefining Greenland's place in the world and asserting its right to choose its own partners. This was a carefully calculated, strategic move, aimed at building greater autonomy and reducing dependence on Denmark or any single foreign power. Greenland's government recognized that true independence required a diverse network of relationships, not just reliance on traditional allies. Greenland wanted partners who truly understood the unique challenges of the Arctic, partners who valued indigenous rights, respected local knowledge, and prioritized environmental stewardship in a rapidly changing climate. The search was for collaboration, not domination. The American approach, often focused on strategic control and military interests, clashed with Greenland's vision of equal partnership and mutual respect. Greenland was determined to avoid becoming a pawn in great power politics. In early 2025, Greenland and Canada announced a series of ambitious joint ventures in mining, sustainable energy, and Arctic research. These projects were designed not only to boost economic growth, but also to foster innovation and protect the fragile Arctic environment. These new deals emphasized local benefits, environmental protection, and the sharing of scientific knowledge. They aimed to empower Arctic communities and ensure that development was both responsible and inclusive. Canada, as a fellow Arctic nation with a long history of indigenous engagement and environmental advocacy, was seen as a natural ally. The partnership was built on shared values and mutual respect. Greenland's pivot sent a powerful message to the world. They were not a geopolitical pawn, but an active, sovereign player, confidently shaping their own destiny and future on their own terms. The centerpiece of the Greenland-Canada alliance was a landmark mining deal. In June 2025, Greenland granted a 30-year permit for the Malmbjerg molybdenum project to Toronto-based Greenland Resources Inc. This mine could supply the EU's entire molybdenum demand, challenging China's dominance in critical minerals. The deal was hailed as a win for Western economic security and a model for resource partnerships. Canadian investment in Greenland's mining sector surged, with projects promising local jobs and strict environmental standards. Denmark also backed Greenland's graphite exploration, aligning with EU priorities. Together, these moves positioned Greenland as a key player in Western resource security and economic independence. News of Greenland's Canadian pivot sent shockwaves through the corridors of power in Washington, sparked a sense of relief in Copenhagen, and ignited a wave of pride in Nuuk. The world watched as the three capitals responded in their own distinct ways, each grappling with the implications of Greenland's bold move. Former President Trump, who had once floated the idea of purchasing Greenland, called the development a missed opportunity for the United States. He lamented what he saw as a failure to recognize Greenland's growing desire for sovereignty and independence, and warned that America's influence in the Arctic was slipping away. Within the Pentagon and across the U.S. intelligence community, officials voiced deep concerns about the long-term implications for Arctic security. The region's strategic importance, with its vast resources and critical military installations, suddenly seemed more vulnerable. The future of Thule Air Base, America's northernmost military outpost, became a pressing question. Would Greenland's new alliances affect U.S. access and operations in the Arctic? Secretary of State Marco Rubio quickly called for renewed dialogue, urging both allies and Greenlandic leaders to come to the table. He hoped to repair strained relations and ensure that the U.S. remained a trusted partner in the region. In Denmark, officials found themselves caught between mounting U.S. pressure and Greenland's push for greater autonomy. Yet Copenhagen ultimately welcomed the outcome, seeing it as a victory for stability, Western unity, and the enduring bonds within the Kingdom of Denmark. For Greenland, the decision marked a historic triumph of self-determination. Leaders in Nuuk emphasized that their people had chosen their own path, free from outside coercion. Greenlandic officials celebrated their ability to stand firm under international pressure, demonstrating unity and resolve in the face of global scrutiny. The new partnership with Canada was seen as a chance to forge economic and diplomatic relationships on their own terms, opening doors to fresh opportunities and collaboration. Across Greenland, the move inspired a surge of national pride and optimism for the future. Citizens celebrated in the streets, hopeful that their voices would continue to shape the destiny of their homeland. Greenland had proven to the world that it was not for sale. It was a nation with its own voice, ready to chart its own course on the global stage. Greenland chose Canada because it offered partnership, not possession. Canada's approach was collaborative, rooted in mutual respect and shared Arctic identity. Both nations understood the challenges of the North and valued indigenous empowerment. Canadian deals were structured as joint ventures, promising local jobs, infrastructure, and training. This contrasted sharply with the U.S.'s transactional, control-focused proposal. Greenland saw Canada as a stepping stone to true independence, not a new dependency. The partnership was about building a self-sustaining economy and retaining control over their future. Canada treated Greenland as an equal, not a commodity. Greenland's pivot to Canada reshaped Arctic security, complicating U.S. interests. The U.S. can no longer assume automatic access or influence in Greenland, as future military requests may face more scrutiny. America's heavy-handed approach cost it goodwill, opening the door for rivals like Russia and China. As the Arctic becomes more accessible, strained U.S.-Greenland relations could hamper American power projection. Greenland's mining deals prioritized European security over U.S. ambitions, forcing America to compete for resources. The U.S. must now adapt, focusing on respectful diplomacy and partnership. Building trust and offering collaboration in science, development, and education will be key. The Arctic chessboard has changed. America must play a smarter, more cooperative game. For Denmark, Greenland's Canadian partnerships eased diplomatic tensions and supported long-term goals of economic self-sufficiency. The EU welcomed the deals, seeing them as a step toward strategic autonomy in critical minerals. Greenland's resources are vital for Europe's green and digital transitions, reducing dependence on China. The agreement strengthened Greenland's special relationship with the EU and promised further investment and support. Denmark saw a prosperous, stable Greenland as an asset to both Danish and European security. By supporting Greenland's resource development, Denmark contributed to a stronger, more resilient Western alliance. Greenland's pivot was not a move away from the West, but a move toward deeper integration with trusted partners. The events of 2025 set Greenland, Canada, and the US on new paths, reshaping the North Atlantic. Greenland now faces the challenge of turning partnerships into real economic and social benefits, paving the way for independence. Canada's diplomatic and economic victory positions it as a model for respectful Arctic development. The US must rethink its Arctic policy, shifting from unilateralism to genuine partnership and repair. The Arctic is now a stage for complex alliances, not superpower dictates. Greenland's assertion of agency shows that small nations can shape global outcomes. The future will be defined by collaboration, trust, and shared Arctic identity. In this new era, partnership, not possession, will be the key to success.